Welcome back to So You Really Want to Learn Latin, and today we are going to carry on looking at Latin verse, but we are going to introduce another little fellow called the Elegiac Couplet. Now, an elegiac couplet is where you have a pattern for the verse which is made up of one hexameter line, and we've learnt how to cope with hexameter lines now, followed by a pentameter line. Now, if you've got any kind of knowledge of how Greek numbers work, you'll know that whereas a hexameter line had 6 feet, a pentameter line has 5. Okay, and pentameter lines are actually pretty easy to scan. They begin with 2 feet made up of either dactyls or spondees. Okay, so you get 2 feet like that, followed by a half foot. And the half foot contains a single long syllable. Okay, it's a bit unusual, just a single long syllable. Then you get the caesura, okay, the drawing of breath. And then you get a lovely little ending which is always fixed, and it goes da diddy da diddy da. Okay, so pentameters are actually really easy to scan because so much of the pattern is fixed. The first 2 feet can either be dactyls or spondees, so we get a da diddy or a da da, a da diddy or a da da. But then you're into this really easy pattern: long syllable, caesura, and then da diddy da diddy da. Okay, so an elegiac couplet is where you have one hexameter line followed by a pentameter line. And the great thing about this type of poetry is that the sense of the Latin typically fits within that couplet. So unlike hexameters, in the great epic poetry, Virgil, Homer, if you were in Greek, but, you know, let's think about Virgil in Latin, the sense of the verse can continue line after line after line. So you end up with, you know, pretty difficult sentences to translate because you're looking down the verse trying to find where's the main verb and all of that sort of thing. With elegiac couplets, typically the sense is all contained within just those 2 lines, which makes it much, much easier to cope with. So in terms of who wrote using elegiac couplets, well, probably the best place to start in terms of Latin is Ovid. Okay, Ovid wrote loads of poetry in elegiac couplets. And because it's in elegiac couplets, it's relatively easy to translate for that reason I've just given. Okay, so best thing to do is to grab an elegiac couplet and see if we can sort it out. Now, we are in chapter 10 of the course. As you know, we're getting dangerously close to the end. We're really almost on the last thing that we're going to teach in this course. There's one other little thing that I might mention. But let's have a little look at these lines from Ovid. He's talking about the capture of Gabii. This is at page 107, exercise 10.6. And we'll just do the first couplet here. Okay, so we've got Ultima Tarquinius Romanae gentis habebat, Regna vir injustus, fortis ad arma tamen. Okay, now that is an elegiac couplet. You can hear that the first line is running as a hexameter, and then the second line kind of slows everything down, not least because you've got that caesura, that fixed caesura coming in the middle of a shorter line, and then it always finishes da-di-di-da-di-di-da. Okay, so let's have a go at this. Now, as last time, I'll grab pen and paper. Okay, so here we have our pen and paper, and I'm going to write out the lines. Bear with me while I do that, then we're going to scan them. So, Ultima Tarquinius but you will, as you get into this, find that as you read the poetry, you're almost scanning it as you go. You'll get better at it, honestly, trust me. And then we're going regna in justus fortis. Come in. Right. Okay, so we do the hexameter line first. First rule, we're going to look to see if there's any elision. Ultimata quinius romani gentis habebat. No elision, none of the words end, I'm talking about the first line here, none of the words end in a vowel or an M. Okay, second thing we do is we look for diphthongs, because they're always going to be long. Ultimata quinius romani. Right, there's our first diphthong. We whack a little line over the top of romani, gentis habebat. That's the only one. Right, 3, look for syllables containing vowels which are followed by 2 or more consonants. Okay, and when doing this, just be aware of that exception we learnt last time. If the second of those 2 consonants is an L or an R, it may not apply. Right, ultima, right, the U of ultima, we knew it was long anyway, because the first syllable is always going to be long, but U followed by LT. The A of Tarquinius, A followed by R and Q. Okay, Quinius Romani. Gentis, right, the E of Gentis, NT after the E, so that must be long. Habebat, and that's the end of that. Right, now we go to our 5th point, which is mark the last 5 mark the last 5 syllables so that we can finish off the last 2 feet. Now, hexameters always end either da-da or da-di, so habebat, right, the E must be long and the A of habebat, well, it's pronounced short, so we can mark it as short. As I've said before, it doesn't really matter because you've kind of got to the end of the line. Strictly speaking, that habebat is followed by the T of habebat and then the R of the next word, ringna. But, as I say, don't worry about it. So we mark off our foot number 6. Now we come to the 5th foot, which we know will be a dactyl. Okay, now gentis habebat, the A of habebat has got to be short because it's a dactyl, and it's habeo, it's not habeo, but there we go. Now that makes the syllable before the habebat short, must be short, because you get short syllables in hexameter lines always coming in pairs. So the is of gentis is short. Now, we might have thought that was long because an I followed by an S and an H, they're both consonants. H's are a bit funny, really, though, because, you know, they're not kind of proper consonants. They're not making a nice consonantal noise, really. So it shouldn't surprise us too much to find that I is short. If you know that it's coming from the word gens, and that's its genitive singular, gentis, you're expecting to pronounce that I as short. And although, as I say, although it's followed by an S and then an H, it is short. And in this foot, it has to be short, has to be, because the 5th foot of a hexameter is always a dactyl. Okay, right, that gives us foot number 5, gentis ha. Okay, gentis ha, and then foot number 6, bebat. Okay, right, now what do? We complete any feet that now kind of have to be what they have to be. And, I tend to work backwards from right to left because, as you complete the feet, you mark your line, then you're kind of looking at the next one. So foot number 4, we know finishes with that diphthong of Romani. And if it finishes with a long, then the syllable before the long must also be long, because that's how feet work. They either consist of da, di, di, or they consist of da, da. But if it's not di, then, do you see what I mean? The syllable before I must be long because it's going to be a da, da. So it's Romani. Okay. And then we're left dealing with the 3 feet which spread over ultima tarquinius Romani. Okay, now there are various things we can do here there's something we didn't do. Oh, I'm so sorry. There's something we didn't do which we really should have done. Do you remember that rule? A vowel before another vowel, not part of a diphthong, will be short, unless it's one of those exceptional genitives that we looked at. Now, tarquinius. Okay, look at that word, tarquinius. The I at the end of that word, before the U, must be short because of that rule. Right, so that kind of helps us a bit. It helps us a bit because we know that there is another short either immediately after the I or immediately before it. Okay, common sense can kick in here. Now, tarquini, we know there's a short there. The syllable after it can be long or short, and then the syllable after that will be whatever it is. Well, if you think about it, the us of tarquinius could not be short, because if it were short, that would be our 2 shorts together, and therefore the syllable after the us could not be short, because then you would have got 3 shorts together. So that's not a possibility. Now what that tells us is that the syllable I'm talking about, the one after the us, must be long, because we've just proved it can't be short. And we kind of knew that anyway, because the word is Romanus, not Romanus, but, So if Romani is long, then the syllable before it has also got to be long, because a foot cannot go short long. So the us of tarquinius is long. And as I do that, I bash myself on the head and I say, well, I kind of knew that anyway, because a vowel followed by 2 consonants is long. I kind of held off a little bit because the second of the 2 consonants was either an L or an R. And we learnt last time that those syllables can exceptionally be either long or short. So I was a little bit reluctant to mark it. But I needn't have been, because we've just proved that it is indeed long. So tarquinius, there's our 3rd foot. We've got tarquinius Romani gentis habebat. That's how this line finishes. Now we've just got the 2 feet at the beginning which we haven't finished marking, and the process of elimination kicks in again, because the tarquin-it. Now we've got a short there, and therefore shorts always come in pairs. So the syllable before the it of tarquin-it must be short, and therefore it's the I of tarquin. Now tarquinius, there we go. We can mark our 2nd foot as finished, tarquinius. us Romani gentis habebat. And that just leaves the first foot, which we haven't done, and we've done this one before. How many syllables is it? Ultima. 3 syllables, and it is only 1 foot, because there's only 1 foot left. Therefore, it must have been a dactyl, and it is ultima. Okay, not ultima. Right, don't forget what I've said before about grammar. Ultima. Really nice to know that that is a short A, so it's a nominative or vocative singular, or it's a neuter plural. But what it is not is an ablative singular. Okay, now when you finish the scanning of that line, one thing we haven't yet done, and that's put in the caesura. And remember, the caesura in the hexameter line comes typically in the middle of the 3rd foot, in between 2 words. If we've got a gap between words in the 3rd foot, and those 2 words are not very closely tied together like a preposition and the noun it goes with, that's where to put it. So buff, in it goes, in between Tarquinius and Romani. But the sentence hasn't finished. You can see that it's carrying on into this next line. And this next line is the pentameter line. Okay, now we need to look at our pattern for the pentameter line. We're going to do the same things. We're going to look for elision. Regna vir injustus fortis ad arma tamen. There is no elision. Okay, so that's cool. We're going to look for diphthongs. Okay, Regna vir injustus fortis ad arma tamen. There are no diphthongs. Okay. And we are going to, what are we going to do? Oh yeah, and we're going to look for vowels followed by 2 consonants. Ring. Now, the first syllable must be long, E followed by GN. A, we don't know where to, we don't know injustus. Okay, now the U of injustus, the first U, is a U followed by an S and a T, so we're quietly confident that is going to be long. The us at the end of injustus is followed, the U is followed by an S and then an F, so we're quietly confident that will be long. Fortis, the O followed by an R and a T, that's going to be long. Fortis ad arma, don't know. And then we don't know anything else. Okay, so we've marked some longs. We'll just have a quick look for vowels in front of other vowels not part of a diphthong. Regna vir injustus. Injustus, just be careful there, because that the second I in the word injustus is in fact a J. It's a consonantal I, not a vowel. You might say, how am I supposed to know that? Well, just think, injustus, I mean, if you look it up, it means unjust. J. So in English, it's a J, and that's a bit of a clue that in Latin it was as well. Fortis ad arma tamen. Okay, and no more vowels before vowels, not part of diphthongs. Okay, now, with a pentameter line, the marking of the back end of it, which is one of the things we did with hexameters, is just as easy. In fact, it's kind of easier because there's more of it that you can do. So we know that the last syllable scans long. Don't worry too much if you pronounce it long. It's kind of scanning long for this purpose. And then we've got 2 dactyls. So it's da-diddy-da-diddy-da. So, and you can write them backwards. So the ta of tamen, the a of arma, and the a of arma is long. Okay? Which I should already have marked. I can't remember if I did or not, but the first A of arma is long anyway, because it's A followed by R and then M. Okay, and then there's another dactyl before that, so the ud of ad and the is of fortis must be short, and we'd already marked the O of fortis as long. So there's our da diddy da diddy da, and we know this syllable immediately before fortis will be long, because pentameter lines, that is what happens. They are long, and what's more, that is where the caesura comes. Okay? Ring no where in use tus, and that long syllable with a caesura. Now, we've only now got the 2 feet before that in justus to deal with. So we've got ring no where in justus, and these can be either dactyls or spondies, but we're in this process of elimination game again. In just, if that syllable, jus, is long, the syllable before it must be long, because you can't go short, long, and then end a foot. So the I is long, and therefore make a foot division there. And then you've only got 1 foot to do, and it's made up of these syllables ringna wera. 3 syllables going into 1 foot must be a dactyl. So it's ringna wera. Okay? Okay, so there we are. We have scanned both lines. We've got ultima tarquinius Romana gentis habebat, ringna verin justus fortis ad arma tamen. Okay, and we've got our 2 caesuras nicely marked. Notice that with the pentameter line, it's 5 feet, but what it is really is 4 full feet and 2 halves. Okay, because the first foot ring no word, second foot in just, and then you've got a kind of half foot before the caesura. Okay, that long syllable. Then you've got the caesura, then you've got 2 more feet, fortis ad armata, and then you finish with a half foot, just a 1 syllable, tamen. Okay. Right, now, lots you can do now to sort that out for yourself. We've got loads of Elegiac couplets for you written out on page 107, which you can have a go at. Scan your way through them. And next time, we will probably have a little look at scanning some more of that stuff. And I'm just going to finish off. There's one more kind of bit of grammar, which is really handy to know, which is very closely tied into Latin verse. It's very common in verse, much, much less common in prose. So we'll do that next time, and then I think it's almost time to send you off on your way. But do keep up the good work on this stuff. Drop me any comments if you're having any sort of trouble in the comments box below, and I'll see you back on this channel very soon.